Thank you so much. So I have the absolute pleasure and privilege of introducing Gil, who over the last year has become an incredible friend of mine. He is the digital design manager at LJA, and who better to talk about digital document standards? I am constantly amazed and just absolutely inspired by him and the ideas that come across his mind. So Gil, take the stage. I know this is going to be an incredible panel. You have assembled some amazing professionals who I absolutely admire. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Shelby. Yeah, so I have an unpopular opinion. It's kind of weird, but I believe that the peanut butter cookie is the most underrated cookie. No problem at all. I believe that that's most underrated cookie. It's my favorite cookie, even over the most popular chocolate chip cookie. But if I wanted to make this cookie and over again, including the chocolate chip, I would have to have a list of instructions, some resume or a recipe, as it will. And, you know, we work through recipes to get a final product that we need. But what if we decided that we are just going to change one thing about the recipe? Maybe something that looks really similar. What if I switched sugar for salt? Well, yesterday I went to the grocery store and grabbed a couple of things for cookies, and family and I did a little experiment, and the outcome of it is what I have in my hand, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, how would this taste? Oh, Nah, nope. That is not a good cookie for sure. Let me just throw the rest of that away.
Oh,
Just
visceral.
because something gets changed, I need a drink of water after that. Gosh. Just because we change one thing about a recipe doesn't make it right. Okay. Sometimes we have to follow the recipe. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Not exactly how to ruin your favorite pastry, but how we deal with the recipe to generate a deliverable to your client. And so I have the honor of having some of the best people on our panel today. Let me get to introducing them. Of course, my name is Gil Cordle. I'm the digital design manager at LJA. Let's go on to the more important people. The first person I want to introduce is somebody who goes by one name. I mean, we can go by one name. It's like share our prints. Just Danya, everybody knows who she is, right? One name. She's a senior CAD and BIM analyst at Nelson Worldwide. She's amazing. She's amazing at Revit. She was one of the first people to pioneer Revit. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say with digital document standards in regards to Revit. Next, we have Chris Lindner. Chris Lindner is the CAD technology consultant at One Button CAD Solutions. He has been working with CAD and helping companies. Oh man, that salt cookie really getting to me. He has helped multiple companies develop CAD standards and have them work through it. He's helped multiple companies come up with the recipe. Next, we have Kurt Moreno working through the ranks and is now Director of IT Services at KSA, one of my mentors, and I definitely do look up to him. His personality is about as big as his hat collection. He has got, if you ever go to AU, he's always got some kind of weird hat. He's probably pulling one right now. Yes, he does. And last but not least, RK McSwain, which is the IT customer service manager here at LJA. It is great because Kurt and RK have worked their way through CAD managers into more of an IT role. So having their input in regards to this is going to be great. So this is all of our panelists, all in one big list. All of their bios are going to be within the handout. So first thing, I appreciate each and every one of the panelists being here, volunteering their time and their knowledge to share with everybody. This is going to be a very interesting conversation, and we have decades of CAD and technology knowledge right into this group alone. So let's start talking about really what is a digital document standards. As technology evolves and as we get more advanced in that technology, these document standards really have to progress with that. It's not just one of those things that is done and stagnant. As we move through time, as industry and technology grows, innovation moves on. These standards need to help in fostering those innovations. So digital document standards are essentially guidelines for deliverables across all software, regardless of what it is: Revit, BricsCAD, MicroStation, AutoCAD, Civil 3D, you name it, even Excel, Word. As you go through, whatever touches your client's hand needs to have the stamp of your company's digital document standards, that kind of stamp. So down at the bottom, I've kind of had these elements that include what would be the base of digital document standards: file storage, software utilized, software settings, template and support files, and lastly, workflows. So let's jump in with the panelists and talk about our first question. So our first question is actually going to be, I'm going to throw it at Chris first, and then we'll have people jump in afterwards. So how vital are digital document standards in the company's deliverable? I'm going to let you answer that, Chris, while I try to get this salt taste out of you.
All right. Thanks, Gil. You know, when I was thinking through these questions, when I got to this first one here, I'm thinking the importance of digital document standards is going to vary depending on the person you're talking to in the company. You know, the production person tends to see the word standards as a hindrance, perhaps, to productivity. I'm trying to get this done and somebody wants me to do it a certain way, and that's a hindrance. So to them, they may not see its importance. However, during their projects, as they go to interact with drawings that other people have done, or perhaps collaborate with other disciplines or team members, and they find out that, wait a minute, that's not the way I did it, or that doesn't work well with the way I worked. Suddenly standards becomes important, because that's going to help us get, as a whole, it's going to help us get our job done quicker. So that level of importance of whether it's vital or not is going to vary from person to person. And sometimes it's the pain points that people experience that help them realize how important that is. So
yeah, one good point that you mentioned is if they're not, if the company doesn't define it, it seems like individuals define it themselves, because that workflow needs to happen. So that standard just gets moved along. Daniel, how do you feel about that? How have you experienced that within the kind of the Revit software and that end of the
Well, I think of it, it's not just a Revit software. We're talking digital document standards is company-wide. We're talking letterheads. We're talking all of anything that you have to send out. We need to have a standard among the company. We have standards at Nelson as far as the logo, the colors, the font, everything throughout all the company. When it comes to Revit, we're talking our title blocks, our dimensions, our text fonts, anything that has to do with the look of what we're presenting. I mean, we ultimately know it's black lines on white paper, but do we have a consensus among, can someone go look at a set of documents and go, well, that's a Nelson project, because I can tell. I mean, not just because somewhere along the way it says Nelson, but there is a consistent look along there.
Yeah, having that consistent look is substantial with it, especially when you look at it from a client perspective. They want to be able to look across the room and go, hey, that is so-and-so's project. I know exactly who that is. Right?
So if I can build on what Danya was talking about, first of all, being able to look at a printed set of plans and documents and confidently identify them has to do with something that most of us don't think very much about, and it's corporate branding. Okay. And
Yes.
when we realized that digital document standards is the evolution of what we had previously called CAD standards, we might have called copy standards, we might have called marketing standards. It's the conglomeration and maturation of all of those things. Because now it's not just marketing that's responsible for using the right shade of green. It's not just the copywriter who's responsible for using the right font. It permeates throughout the company, and we all now have our hands in that pie versus 25 years ago when that was a very siloed thing. You know, every silo in the company had their own playbook that they guarded preciously, and no silo was responsible for matching or adhering to another silo's playbook. And we've seen that model turned on its ear. The last thing I want to mention is that we also have to keep in mind that in the age of collaboration and an increasing amount of subs and prime arrangements, that sometimes our deliverable isn't a plan set. Sometimes our deliverable is digital components for somebody else's deliverable. And if we don't follow the architecture that they use to build those files, then translation time, missteps in insertion, all of these things eat away at profit. They can be fixed, but why should they be fixed when they should just be done right the first time?
Oh, yeah. And that kind of leads into our next real question. This one's going to be for Kurt and RK, and we'll start with RK with it. Knowing that digital document standards isn't just the black and white, but more digital information like file storage and file location and file naming, how important is adhering to digital document standards to prevent future IT issues? RK, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that last question. When you're the last person in a panel to get to a question, everybody wants to know all this stuff. So,
go ahead, and then you can jump on this one.
No, if I could kind of roll those two together, you know, going back 10 plus years ago, I worked for a much smaller company, and things like these digital standards, you know, you could stand up and holler at your neighbor across the way there and, you know, collaborate on what it is. You know, what should we be using? Should we, you know, be using this, using that, whatever. Now I'm at a much larger company, many more people, many more locations. And if we're doing jobs in Phoenix and we're doing jobs in, you know, Orlando, but we're working for the same client, do we want our documents or whatever it is, our deliverable, to look different? No, we want them to look the same. So yeah, how does that, how can we do, what is that for preventing future IT issues? You know, I think on our side, that is helping these groups come up with these, maybe not come up with the standards, but helping them use the standards. So if we come up with something or they come up with something, you know, we provide that framework for the ease of use. I think Chris mentioned that early on. You know, sometimes people look at standards as a hindrance, but really having a standard there makes it easier for you to do something. If you need to show a symbol or you need to have a logo or whatever, having that easily accessible is, you know, on our end, kind of the back end, we're providing that framework. So that makes it easy for all the employees across the company to, you know, have access to and use those standards.
Definitely, for sure. Kurt, you want to jump on that one? How important is it for IT issues?
So I absolutely agree with what RK is saying. You know, from an IT point of view, the first thing that comes to my mind is the very foundation of file organization, which is the standard project file structure. We invested a good amount of thought and effort, and not just once. All of the things that we're talking about today are not fire and forget. These are living, breathing efforts. So we've revised our standard document structure several times. Somebody said, hey, you know what, should we do this? We talked about it and decided yes or no, made the edit. And that gets issued to every project that we use. And why is that important? Well, it's important because in today's economy, you know, a drafter generously or very conservatively speaking, let's just round it down to $1 per minute. And I mean, you have got to be doing some pretty cheap drafting for $60 billable an hour. If you're on a machine and opening a large file, let's say because you're working at a cheap shop, you also don't have a top of the line computer, and it takes a minute to open that file, you just wasted $1. Okay, now if I said to you, RK or Danya, if you want to open a file, you have to pay me $1, you would make sure that you are opening the correct file. But because we don't pay a literal dollar to open a file, we'll open a file and that might not be it. You know, what is Kirk.dwg? Well, who the hell knows? You know, but if you're using a standard structure and a standard filing, a file names pattern, then you start to have more control over what you're doing before you do anything. You're providing the user with metadata that ensures that you're getting efficiency before you ever begin to work. And that's not even touching on the concepts of disaster recovery, backups, all of these things that are happening behind the scenes of production that a drafter or an engineer may never think of. IT stays up at night on sleepless nights worrying about. And that is all a wrapper around the digital document standard.
Definitely. And I'm sure Danya has a couple of comments about how frustrating it is with non-proper documents and naming conventions and all that fun stuff.
When it comes down to the Revit side of it, and I am in IT, which still blows my mind because do not ask me to fix your computer. I can't handle this. I can't even remember how much RAM is in mine. It's a dyslexic thing. I just don't care. But when it comes down to our company, we're blessed enough to have a group of DTS, Design Technical Services people in the IT department to help work with IT on everything from our software to our licensing and things like that. But also we are part of helping set the standards. And it gets down to one of my favorite things to talk about is templates. And if you don't have a good tight template, you're not going to have good standards, because if you don't give them something to start with, you're not going to get it. But then you have to deal with the people that do what I call the bastardization of a former project. Let's just go open that, delete everything, and start from there. Let's not worry about removing all the warnings and everything that ran there. I'll just keep those. They're fun. And so you can't, yeah, to prevent future IT issues, you got to get people to quit some of their old bad habits. And how you do that? I haven't figured it out in a long time. I make a template, I send it out. I cannot take it personally when they don't use it. I have to go and do the Revit forensics that I have to do with my CSI skills and go in and figure out what they did in their projects. And then I back up and go, you know, if you use this one, I can just import some of the standards, it'll fix it. And they don't seem to understand. They want that quick and dirty. And that is the biggest problem we have when it comes to standards, is everybody's back pocket quick and dirty.
Chris, you want to chime in with this one?
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, you know, the pace that we work certainly kind of, it's like the example of the fighter jet that is flying along fine until it hits Mach 1 speed, and then things start to rattle and shake. And it's the speed that reveals those weaknesses, right? And you know, as projects get faster and faster is where you start to see the weaknesses in your standard. You know, and Kurt mentioned earlier about branding. And one of the challenges with digital document standards is the fact that they're not as easily recognizable from the onlooker. I can tell when somebody printed that and it's the wrong green, or they used the wrong font in the logo. I can tell that, right? But Danya even made the comment about black lines on white paper. I can give you a beautiful black lines on white paper document that is completely wrong, right? Or I can give you a beautiful black and white document that is accurate and it looks great, but when you open up that file, it's a disaster to work on. And it's the digital document standards is unfortunately unseen and often unnoticed by the people who make some of these decisions, right? The CEO doesn't know that that beautiful black and white document is a waiting disaster under the hood when you open up those files to work on them and open them, and that that dollar to open a file kind of thing, and collaboration issues and etc.
Oh, I'm going to really regret.
Hey, Gil.
I'm going to regret asking this follow-up question, but I'll ask it after. Okay, go ahead.
Just one of those, Tanya made me think of something that was really important here. And I don't know who all our audience is. I don't know what levels everybody's at. So I don't want to feel like I'm talking down to people, but if you open a text file in Notepad, you can erase all the text and start writing a document in there, right? And generally with Word or Excel, something like that. But to Danya's point, if you do that with a Civil 3D drawing, you erase everything and start working, you're just opening a huge can of worms, right? Because I think Gil, you and we can, if we have time, we can hit on this a little bit later. But you've, in your short time here at this company, you've probably seen this already, where people have a lot of problems with drawings, and it's largely because I believe they are starting from old documents, and whether that's a insert or a copy and paste or whatever. And that's just so huge, at least with like AutoCAD and Civil 3D. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh yeah, and that's
I wanted to say,
question about for sure.
I was really hoping we were going to hear about how Gil just cratered something on day one by copying it. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. But Danya and the rest of it, if you have any amount of experience with this industry and these applications, then you know that reusing a drawing or a template is very akin to continuing working with a Rubik's Cube. It's just going to get uglier and uglier because very few of us know how to fix it once it's screwed up. Okay. Now, I really like Chris's analogy about the airplane because, in fact, and this is actually factual, the first supersonic fighter jet, comprised of two previously crashed jets that were put together, is flying. It's an F-22 supersonic plane, and it has the rear half of a jet that nosed in and was destroyed, and the front end of a plane whose engines exploded. Okay, and the fact that thought was put in ahead of time for the first time ever in the design of the airframe of this type of aircraft, to say if a $27 million jet, and actually I think that's a much smaller price than they probably are, has usable wings or usable fuselage or a usable aft section, why would we throw it all away when we can pair it together with the rest of what we need at the graveyard and make one plane out of two or three? And that's exactly what the type of mentality that we're talking about here. We're talking about a forward investment of time and effort to think ahead of possibilities so that when things go right, they go really right. But even when they go wrong, we can go back and salvage them. If you have to call in somebody like myself or Danya to do some kind of mob style cleanup on your drawings, okay, it's a considerable cost and a considerable waste of everybody's time. And almost certainly the culprit is, an old file. I've seen it in obviously in DWGs. I've seen it in Word docs. Then my next favorite culprit, the super magical calculation spreadsheet that an engineer created in 1980 and has since retired and nobody knows how to update. So it happens.
Oh, definitely. That's kind of the biggest culprit with it. Is just I'm just going to save as. This was a perfect project. I'm going to save as and I'll work through it. People don't think about the history that is behind a file. Files hold history.
But our entire culture as designers, engineers, and architects is permeated on this. But who remembers create as back when AutoCAD had a DOS numbered interface? Okay, you started a new file as a copy of an old file. That was one of Autodesk's ideas, to say create as. I want to say that was the exact option. And even though obviously the DOS menu is long since gone, yes, I remember the digitizer tablets. That idea that we're going to play the numbers. How many times can I do copy as? And if it only screws things up one time out of 10, I'm still money ahead. But are you really? I want to see somebody actually do a study on that. I've never seen the actual numbers, but my gut instinct is no. Once you call Danya,
You're in trouble.
You're in trouble. I mean, not just profit-wise, like you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Copying digital data is one of the best things about CAD, but it's also one of the worst things about CAD.
Cat mama comes in and say, back away from that mouse. You better back away from the mouse,
Yeah.
Move. So the next question is, what is the first step? Haven't done anything with it before in developing or even updating outdated digital design or digital document standards.
Start a new template.
What's the first thing? Nobody's ever done anything.
Start a new template.
The first thing you got to do. Start a template.
Well,
Yes.
I think that I think templates and standards should be revisited regularly.
Every year.
With each release.
I have a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Well, now let's be frank. Not every company uses every release. So if you're using 22 and you skip 23, I don't know if that justifies a new template, or maybe it just maybe just an update. That's not for me to say. That's for each.
What software are you in?
So
what software are you in?
Well, I'm always speaking from a civil 3D.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Revit, you have to start a new one because you don't know what they've built into the template, so you have to start a new one.
Well, I would agree if you're moving to a new release, but if you're not moving to a new release, do you have to put that expense in that year? But if you are moving to a new release, yes, start a new template.
Yeah, it's release based. I have several pages in a spreadsheet. Yeah.
So
document.
And that's going
to. I'm sorry. Go on.
To your question, Gil, that keeping that template fresh is what's going to. Of course, this is a little bit further down the line than just the first step, but keeping that template fresh is kind of like a first step after every iteration of that template. And keeping it fresh retains trust in that template. Because as soon as we start using that template and it's like, oh, I'm dealing with this problem again because they haven't fixed the template, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remember the project I'm working on. And the next time I work on a new project, I'm going to go, well, if I go to the template, I got to deal with that issue that wasn't resolved before. I'm going to use my previous project because I know it's fixed. I don't agree with that, but you can't fault the user for doing what they're trying to do to get done quicker, right?
I would add to that, Gil. Make sure that it could be limited in a smaller company, but the person or people who are doing this work should know what we're talking about here. Don't go to an existing project and copy and paste stuff into your template. You just ruin the whole thing, right? So I don't know if that's the first step, but it's definitely up there at the top.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta get back in here. Templates are never set.
Right.
You finish the first
It's
version,
evolving. Yeah.
and then it evolves throughout the time. People will start going, okay, in this new version, this keeps happening. Can we fix it the template? So if you keep a diary sheet, be it on a a drafting view even. On this date, these things were updated on this date. So I keep a diary sheet for the template as to what's been changed in this version. And every now and again, I'll V it up. If there's a lot, if it's just minimal things, I don't worry about it. But if there's huge things, I will V it up and give me now I have V3. That one becomes the template that gets put out for everybody to work with, and just keep, instead of just keep overwriting the one that's out there, I'll like V3 it and go on with it. But if you keep a running list of what's in there, then the next time you build the template, that list needs to be integrated into my spreadsheet, so that I don't have to repeat that again. So it's a matter of documentation. And you've got and you've got somebody that's as anal retentive as I am about those things, then you're going to get a decent template, because you have to get it documented. If it's not documented, it's a crapshoot every time.
But are you now the other side of documentation is sharing that documentation?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You have to let the users know in release notes what's been changed.
Yeah, that's the diary sheet.
In my long favorited and proposed AU course this year, standardizing standards, that's one of the things we discuss is the full life cycle, and that we have to, like Chris said, add trust to the quality of the template, but we also have to remove friction in making people understand what has changed, why this is better than that.
Chris?
Yeah. I'm going to circle back to your first step concept.
Yeah.
Even because we need to do a template, but the company has to pay for my time to work on that template, or even before working on the template, to gather the information and consensus that's going to be incorporated into the template. So I feel like the first step for me is we've got to get buy-in from upper management, and we have to have weigh-in from the people who are going to be using that digital document standard. So because then, even if I don't have upper management support, they're not going to give me the time to keep that template fresh. It's like, and again, I've mentioned it before, I've got too much wood to cut to stop and sharpen the saw, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same concept with, we have too many projects to do to keep working on that template. Why do you keep working on that template all the time? We have stuff that we've got to work on. And so you have to have buy-in from upper management, support from and you have to have weigh-in from the people who say, these are the things that because it's when we get people to contribute, you get better buy-in downstream, right? If somebody feels like they were heard and that their ideas were incorporated into the template, it makes it a little bit more palatable when they do start using it.
So you're saying not every company has a Danya that spends the majority of her time working on templates?
Nobody. No, there's not another company that has
that. I want to grow up to be Danya.
Who doesn't?
So, but I think this is one of those things that is slowly, the battleship is turning very slowly. 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, it was a uphill battle to get owners and managers to understand that plan production at a drafting level is not just a support service for design, that production level needs its own support. As we go further into support, we have to realize that those are non-billable hours that are, again, an investment. And when I hear companies lament investing in things like standards or training or whatever the case may be, when I hear that, it really makes me stop and think, but this is the same company that it was just, bragging, any company that was just bragging about a new, $5 million facility. We understand that we need floor space in order to have quality production for the people that we need, but we don't understand that some of us don't understand we need to invest in non-billable hours to produce these assets to support those people also. It's not any different than accounting. Who would run a business without an accounting department? But when you start talking about CAD coordinators and DTS teams, Now we're starting, well, no, that we don't need to do that. That's just silly.
All right, RK.
Return on investment. If you spend 2 hours
Yeah.
fixing that template, you'll save every person that uses it half an hour a week or whatever, you know. So that's how you got to present it.
It's a pretty exponential curve.
Yeah.
If you plot it out, it really, think about how many sheets your company turns out a year. I mean, just
How many files?
just in that simple metric, you can start to demonstrate that what I'm doing is actually adding pennies, less than pennies to each sheet.
Oh yeah, for sure. You mentioned like a physical space with the amount of people. Sometimes you have to grow digital space by having that template and the support files and proper storage and all that stuff. That's just not seen, but ignored.
Well, I think all of us either have a spouse or a parent or maybe even a neighbor who's an avid woodworker. Okay, they like building cabinets, they like making toys, whatever it is they do, they carve. And if you go into their shop, I guarantee you, it is clean. Everything's on a hook. Everything is sharp. Okay, and if you put it on the wrong hook, they can glance at it and know that it's in the wrong drawer. But somehow the idea that we can run our companies in a maelstrom of practices and templates and policies that aren't neat, aren't sharp and on a hook, that makes sense. But nobody would do that at home.
Exactly. So how do we get people to put them back on the hook? How do we get them to put and organize the spaces that are digital now? So after developing digital document standards, how do we establish acceptance to the end user? We've already got a buy-in from leadership. We got end users that have helped develop it. And now we're trying to get this to work out. We're trying to get it going and moving. How do we
This comes to
encourage
the
acceptance?
other thing that the overhead doesn't want to be approved for, and that's training. So we got to have overhead to build the template. We got to have overhead to train them on the template, and that's hard to get. So
I would agree. And I think one of the most important things is almost impossible to get paid for is just FaceTime. Okay, it goes back to trust. If I'm delivering or Danya's delivering a template from Mount Olympus, and we don't know who authored the template, we don't have trust in her skills. We don't have any reason to believe that she took our suggestions from version 2 and installed and did that for version 3. If she doesn't come by and answer questions, why would that all adds friction to the acceptance of a template or a standard or any of these that fall in this bucket of DDS? But because Danya is skilled, because she does have a good reputation, because she will give you a hug and answer your questions, people are more likely to trust her and accept what she's handing down. Okay, I mean that is a simple fact. People will resist what they do not know, and unless you go down there and say, "Look at my fat ugly face, I'm here to help you," they're not going to know that.
I keep reminding my people, if you've hit your head on it more than 3 times and you haven't called me, you just like hitting your head, because I'm here to answer your questions. I mean, they actually pay me. I'm complete overhead for the company, and they actually pay me to answer questions.
Oh yeah.
So I'll get phone calls going, I've hit my head 3 times. So.
All right, going to shoot it to you, RK.
To answer your question, make it easy for the end user to use those standards. I think Chris mentioned that a while ago. So don't just build a library of blocks, make it easy for them to find and insert the blocks, to use a simple example. So I think that kind of sums it up there.
If I can make it easier for you to do it right than it is for you to do it wrong, then that's a win. You'll most likely do it right, because if doing it right slows me down, it's not going to last. But if I can, if doing it right per the digital document standard is intuitive, makes sense, quick to implement, then it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, if doing it right slows them down, then we
I
didn't do
agree.
our job.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you what I've been running into and trying to take the company template, pare it down for certain groups. The biggest problem I have, and let me know if you have a problem with this too, but it's like I send out things like, I need you to answer these questions so I can fix your template.
Mhm.
Getting answers back is like pulling hen's teeth. I
Okay.
might as well chase the raccoon up the tree myself and let the dog stay in the house. This is not working.
Now, first of all, I would take you raccoon hunting over my dog. Second of all, I mean, that's like where the red fern grows. That book
Right.
writes itself.
Yeah.
I was traumatized by that book. But anywho, there is a very important thing that I think in technical fields we overlook. And that's that we become so enamored with the technology, we forget the people. We are so excited about the Amazon box, we forget about the driver. And in order to overcome what Donya just, exemplified by saying, hey, I can't get you to return my call, I can't get you to answer this email, is that you have to understand that everybody is the hero of their own story. You are an NPC in that designer's world, and you have to find a way to figure out what he thinks about himself. For instance, he probably thinks that he's a very efficient, intelligent person. Until you assume a position that supports his intelligence and efficiency and place yourself at a time in his day that he's willing to accept your interruption, he's never going to respond to you, or she's never going to respond to you. Okay? This is a lesson that I had to learn so painfully. And I mean, it really took a long time. But when you can begin
Did Kurt go away?
Uh-oh.
Oh
Did
no.
Kurt freeze up?
Kurt froze up.
Wasn't my fault, Gil. It wasn't my fault.
Well,
I know it's not your fault. Hey,
let me
anybody
follow
else
up.
have-
Let me follow through with something here.
Go ahead.
With something that Kurt's saying, you've got to get to that person. You've got to make sure. And when you're talking with them, you need to. My thing,
and you'll get a lot more cooperation.
There he is. Okay, so I when I'm talking to someone, I will say, I see what you're saying. Some people say I hear. So you got, if you listen to people, they're saying I see, I hear. Decide if they're audio or visual, so that you can go to them on their territory. So if somebody says I hear you, then I want to make sure I explain things more. If somebody says I see what you're saying, I want to show it more.
That's good.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of when you. I've got degrees in education. I might as well pull some of that out and play with it too. But it's like when you go in there and you see what they're asking for, try to give it back to them in the way that they understand it. But be very, very careful listening for those two terms, I hear or I see, to see what they're doing. And you see, I just said to see what they're doing because I'm a visual person. But it's a matter of backing up and explaining to them on their level the way they need to hear it or see it.
I use the repeat trick. Okay, when people ask me, look, I'm having a problem with this, I'm having a problem with that, or I need you to do something, before the call ends, I look at my tablet and I say, hey, just to go back over this, these are the 3 things that I'm going to take care of for you. Okay, so that they can understand that I understand. And sometimes I didn't. So,
Chris, you got any feedback on this?
I just want to throw one thought about, we talked about, how the fact that the digital part of documents is a kind of under the hood. It's something that's not seen necessarily. And we say, yeah, if you copy a project from another one, you don't know what you're getting. And there's a bunch of stuff that you're inheriting that you shouldn't inherit. But the digital document standards has the potential to leverage that unseen power for good, right? If I can also implement digital document standards by having well thought out families, well thought out blocks, things that are going to bring my digital document standards into those drawings whenever the people use them, right? Even the list routines or things, Dynamo, whatever, those tools that kind of sneak those digital document standards in without the user even being aware of it, right? I call it user transparent implementation, right? If I can get that stuff in there because I gave them a tool or library or something that's got all that stuff in it, then I'm actually leveraging that hidden digital component to my advantage.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Before we go to questions from the audience, I'm going to throw it to RK to finish off this question, and then we'll go to them. You're on mute, man.
Come on, dog.
Get
Well,
with
it's
it.
because I've already answered it for you, Gil. That's why.
Oh,
Oh, snap.
It was the make it easy.
I was making sure everybody got their spot to talk.
No. You're very. I do have something to say, but it isn't related to this question, so I'll save it. But yeah, to come back, circle back around again. Yeah, you got to make it easy for the end user to use those standards.
All right. Well, do we have any questions from the audience? I think Christina was going to grab those.
There's a comment out here about we have user groups to discuss standards and support team. My group, the DTS team, was doing a weekly half an hour session where we would try to do a little teaching something. We would then take whatever questions they wanted and stuff. And we had the same people every time. And we've got hundreds of people that work here, and we would have the same 16 people every time.
You know, that's because people with big mouths will fill empty voids. You and I do it. Okay. And
No
whoever's moderating that has to take the extra effort to make sure that quiet voices are heard. It's very important.
We had some that showed up just to learn. Maritza loved everything that we did, and she never piped up or anything. She was just there she was a sponge.
Mm-hmm.
She's one I can think of. There was several that were just the sponges that showed up to grab whatever we had. But that's something that let's see, Hood at jmt.com mentioned they have a user group in there. So that's what I wanted to bring that up. That's also a good thing to have in your company, is to have some time where you can get together with it. Even if you do lunch and learns, which I can't do that. I don't even live near an office. I'm 4 hours from the closest one of our offices, and we've got, I don't know how many all over the country and the world. We've got out of country offices too.
You know, in the chat, I noticed that Adam Munoz had put that we have checklists everywhere. Do not undervalue the checklist. Okay, in its simplest form, the checklist is so much better as a nascent standard than nothing. Okay, it's not from 0 to 1. A checklist is going from 0 to 78. Okay, on your way to 100. Aaron W mentioned that you can't just ask user-specific questions on what to update or fix in a template, because it can be frustrating to come up with something off your head. And I don't think that that's what Danya and I were proposing. I certainly am not hiding in the hallways waiting for somebody to walk by so that, you know, I can mug them and demand that they tell me what's wrong with their template.
No, I sent them a list of, these are the doors we have. Which ones do you want in your template?
Yeah. And, you know, I think that it's definitely a process, and it's a repetitive process, and you need to let them know, okay, I'm going to go do this and I'll be back. And maybe they have another comment after that and another comment after that.
Yeah, it keeps snowballing because they never realize that they have all these problems until, like, oh, somebody's here. I can actually start talking about it. And that's one.
I mean, how many people can even say what they want for dinner when they're put on the spot? You know?
Or they want to come in and get stuff done and leave. Christina, do we have any questions?
That's going to be me.
Yeah, it's going to be Shelby.
Christina, one of you two.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions?
We're always a team, and you never know who to expect. So we have two in the Q&A. One is, are standards manuals still being kept up, or is the template becoming the new standard? Are you using something like PowerPoint or similar to graphically help download that information to the new employee?
When it comes to our team, we have Nelson University, where we can set up a course and we can put out documents, we can make videos and put them together. But yeah, we're using what's the gals with the green scarves? What is that?
Globally
Globally training. Yes, thank you.
I'll be sure and
Globally-
tell them it took you that long to come up with it.
Do not tell them
Remember the
that.
green scarf?
The green scarves,
I
yeah,
know.
right.
Hey,
But yeah, we
branding
use them.
works.
So yeah, if you have a
Yep.
bulletin board or something where you can put a training material, what I do, what I call my cheat sheets. Like, can you just write me a cheat sheet on how to do that with step by steps? And I do a lot of screen grabs and stuff with it. So there's a lot of ways to do this.
Yeah, and there's kind of a follow-up question to that. Is there any software you're using to help organize your digital document standards besides a template?
I would just throw in, a knowledge base of some kind. Is people don't necessarily, I'm not going to pull out a 3-ring binder anymore. Right?
So
somebody's got a mic on.
yeah,
But the ability to search alone helps with standards adherence. If I need to find something, I'm not going to flip through a manual to try to. So it's another digital document standard. Is that manual itself is going to adhere to some digital document standard as well.
And that includes the letterhead and how things are run to it too.
Yeah.
It meets that standard as well.
So again, in my proposal, that's one of the things we cover is that you can't say, oh, well, I use this application. You could use SharePoint, you could use IT Glue, you could use Get, you could use Pinnacle, you can use a chat bot. The number of ways to house the mediums that you can house your standard in for delivery are almost infinite. Okay, all the way down to you can put the damn information on Post-it notes. But what it really comes down to is the absorption style of your audience. Okay, do they want something interactive? Do they want a manual? Do they want Post-it notes? That's going to dictate really the delivery system. Now, in terms of organization, like if Danya's working on it, she needs to find a system that works for her in the creation and maintenance, and don't mix those two things up. Okay, those are two different systems. What I might use to hold my recipes is completely different than how I'm going to give you a recipe for my pot roast.
Mm-hmm.
And I make a sick pot roast.
You switched from cookies to pot roast on this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just
pot roast.
Yeah.
We also had raccoon hunting too. So
yeah, Gil's not in charge of desserts.
Well, you don't like my cookies? Yeah, that was not good. Not good at all.
Any more questions?
Any more questions? Yeah.
So there's not so much questions, but there's some comments just agreeing with you, saying that standards, equating them to fast food chains, and that you wouldn't have one be different than the other. Speed limits, that standards are all around us. And then several are commenting about using Reference Explorer with the desktop connector and leveraging that for helping to enforce standards and templates.
Tom Richardson has an interesting comment here. First of all, he touches on a couple of things. He says that not all people are confident creating or comfortable creating learning content because they don't want to hear their own voice in a video, or they don't want to, see themselves. As somebody who used to be a professional or AmPro photographer, I would run into people who say, "Oh, no, I don't want to take a picture," and I would tell them, "Look, whatever it is about yourself, in this case, I hate the sound of my voice. Okay. If it's a picture, it's the way you look. Nobody who knows you doesn't already know that I'm fat. Okay. Nobody's going to look at a picture of Kurt and say, "Oh my God, I've known Kurt for 25 years. Nobody told me he was fat." Gil, did you know Kurt was fat? Why didn't somebody say Kurt was fat? See, nobody's going to say Gil has a squeaky voice, or that Gil, scratches his forehead 72 times during a webinar. We already know that. we don't care. That's why we like Gil. Nobody, you're being self-conscious and critical over things that just don't matter. What matters is the content. Okay, so even though you don't like your voice, and maybe nobody else likes your voice, if you have something to say, people are going to listen to it. The second thing I wanted to touch on real quick is that by learning to use standards, we are doing something that's very akin to learning basic algebra in school. Okay, nobody needs to know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared 99% of the time of their life. But by understanding systems, we can switch systems very easily. So when we have a standard that we adhere to here, we go to work with somebody, we can collaborate with them, even though their standard is different. We go to a new job, we will pick up their standard faster. We switch to the national CAD standard, we will have a understanding of how that system works before we ever look at it. So the benefits of standards extend beyond just applying them at your job.
Okay, can I?
Exactly. Yeah, I was about to say we can get some closing statements about digital document standards.
Okay, I just got to comment on something that came to my mind when Gil was talking, when Kurt was talking, and that's the fact that killer of standards, one of the number one killers that I've seen is new guy comes in and goes, well, at my last office, we did this. Hang on a minute. Let me open up one of my templates or one of my projects and bring that stuff over here. Oh, my word. Did you really walk away with some of their
intellectual property?
Intellectual property? Yeah. And did you just walk away with it and come out with it? And oh my gosh, why are you here? Why aren't you back at your old office? Don't
be party to a felony.
It was so good.
The one that comes in best is the one's gonna come in and go, how do you do it here? And that was one of my first things when I get here is, what do you want me to do? It's the templates. I said, show me your template. I'm not going to talk to you about anything I've done in the past. I want to see what you've got. So if you're going to change jobs, please leave your old job and the way things did it back there, because you are one of the worst people to work with company standards. You're the killer of company standards if you're bringing your old company standards in.
Nobody wants to be friends with their ex.
Don't be friends with your ex. Okay.
What a song too.
All right. Okay. Closing statements.
I don't have a closing statement, but I'll tell you about a quick little story. I had a problem where one of my users said the drawing took an hour to plot, and sure enough, it did. And I dug around a little deeper, and this goes to Chris's point about it looked fine on paper, but it was a LiDAR surface that had been exploded down to the lines, and there were over 2 million lines in the drawing. And nobody picked up on that. And we removed the surface that plotted in 1 second, so.
Yeah. Wait, how do y'all do it? No.
I didn't train that person.
Danya told me, I want you all to go to work Monday and go, well, Danya said.
Explode a LiDAR surface.
Oh, I used to define that on people's machines. You could do that. You know that?
Right. Yeah, that's good. Chris,
in
how
your
about
startup
you?
list, yeah.
Some closing comments.
Yeah, let me just close. I'm gonna circle back to where the red fern grows reference that was made earlier. There's one of my favorite parts of that book was the little boy in the book. The little boy is saving up money to buy a hound dog, and it's taking him forever. He's doing little odd jobs or whatever. And there's this great conversation between the little boy and his grandfather. And the little boy is complaining about how long this has taken. And the grandfather says, well, this is good because you're building character. And the little boy says, I don't want character. I want dogs. And all I would say about this process is enjoy the process, embrace the process. Don't get so hung up on the fact that I want digital document standards to be done that I'm not developing with the company as a person, as a professional in the process of achieving that end goal of dogs or a digital document standard.
Yeah, exactly. So as we finish this panel out, just understanding the importance of the recipe, the digital document standards, and how the final deliverable, which is...
I knew he had another cookie.
What?
I said I knew you had another cookie.
There's a bunch of cookies. There's real cookies, not like salt cookies. That was
I didn't get no damn cookies.
understanding how
We
this,
we all got one, Kurt. You didn't get one?
I think
You
you're
want
not doing
me to-
cooking.
Cookies improve performance.
yeah.
I thought I thought
recipe
the hey,
definitely defines what cookie, like how the cookie outcome is. And you definitely want to follow your digital document standards to produce your cookie.